Hi, welcome to the WG Legacy Podcast, the #1 estate planning podcast in Malaysia. My name is Ian, and today I will be answering 3 common questions that we receive when it comes to setting up a trust in Malaysia, and the questions are as follows. Number 1, what exactly is a trust? Number 2, who are the main parties involved in the establishment of a trust? And finally, number 3, what are the different types of trust you can establish today? And so very quickly, let me start by answering the first question, which is what exactly is a trust? So basically, a trust is a legal document which details a preset instructions on how the assets listed are to be distributed and managed if they are not yet distributed to the beneficiaries. And that's it. That is the answer to question number 1. So right now, let us quickly move on to question number 2, where I will be answering who are the main parties involved in the establishment of a trust. So basically, there are 4 main parties that are involved in establishing a trust. Number 1, we have the settlor. The settlor is the person who establishes a trust. Number 2, we have the assets. And these assets may include the settlor's cash, life insurance policies, real estates, shares of businesses, and anything that is of value and it is lawful. Then we have number 3, the trustee. So the trustee is the appointed person to manage and distribute the assets in accordance to the instructions set out by the settlor in his trust deed. And finally, we have number 4, the beneficiaries. So these are the final recipients listed in the trust, and they are nominated by the settlor himself. Okay, so we have answered question number 2, and right now let's move on to question number 3, which is what are the types of trusts that we can establish today in Malaysia? Well, in essence, we can establish 3 different types of trusts in Malaysia. They are number 1, Testamentary Trust, number 2, Declaration Trust or Standby Trust, and number 3, Living Trust. So the question is, what are the differences between the 3 trusts? With that, let us do a short case study. So let's say we have Aaron. Aaron wants to set up a trust to administer his cash. Presently in Malaysia, it is possible for Aaron to set up any of the 3 trusts stated to administer his cash. For example, Aaron can set up a testamentary trust. A testamentary trust is a trust set up within a will, and it will be in effect only upon Aaron's passing in the future. So if Aaron sets up a testamentary trust, he can distribute a sum of cash, let's say 10,000 ringgit a month, to his wife and children upon his death. So the good thing about having a testamentary trust is that Aaron can still freely use his cash as long as he is healthy and able, because his cash is still in his bank account. But the drawbacks are, number 1, his cash will be frozen upon death, and if he is mentally incapacitated or comatose. And number 2, it could take a longer time for his beneficiaries to receive the cash if his will is contested for its validity, and if he fails to appoint an executor to execute his will. Next, Aaron could set up a declaration trust, which is also known as a standby trust. So here's how it works. A declaration trust is like preparing an empty box. The empty box contains a set of instructions by the settlor, and the settlor then hands over the empty box to the testator for safekeeping. So if Aaron sets up a declaration trust, he could instruct the trustee in the event of his death, total permanent disability, illness or comatose, to take the empty box, follow the instructions given, retrieve Aaron's cash from his bank accounts, and distribute his money, let's say 10,000 ringgit a month, to his wife and children. So the advantages of having a declaration trust are, number 1, he can still freely use his cash as long as he is alive because his cash is still in his bank account. Number 2, Aaron could nominate himself as the beneficiary so that he could be taken care for if he becomes mentally incapacitated, comatose, totally and permanently disabled, or critically ill. And number 3, the distribution of cash to the beneficiaries is much faster than a testamentary trust, as grant of probate is not needed. But the drawback is this: it would take around 2 months for Aaron's trustee to retrieve the cash from Aaron's bank accounts. And finally, Aaron could establish a living trust. Here is how it works. A living trust is like preparing a box and fill in assets into the box. The box will contain a set of instructions by the settlor, and the settlor then hands over the box filled with assets to the testator for safekeeping. And so if Aaron sets up a living trust, he could instruct the trustee to manage his cash when he is healthy and able. But in the event of Aaron's death, total permanent disability, illness and comatose, the trustee shall distribute his cash, let's say 10,000 ringgit a month, to his wife and children. So the advantages of having a living trust are: number one, Aaron's beneficiaries could receive the cash from the trustee in 7 days. Number two, Aaron could also nominate himself as the beneficiary so that he could be taken care for if he becomes mentally incapacitated, comatose, totally and permanently disabled, or critically ill. And number three, Aaron could request his trustee to earn a projected 5 to 7% in interest per annum for his cash put into his living trust if he is healthy and able. But the drawback is this: Aaron could not use this cash freely as he has transferred the ownership of his cash to his own living trust. So that concludes episode number 2. I hope that you have gained more knowledge and insights about establishing a trust in Malaysia. Thank you so much for listening, and for more information, please check out our website, which is wglegacy.com. And you may download a special 30-page strategic report on estate planning at wglegacy.com/report. And it is again wglegacy.com/report. And with that, see you next time. Goodbye.